Welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your trusted weather source here, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype here on your Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Now, before we get going, we always like to say thank you and welcome aboard to any new subscribers here to the channel. And if you haven't yet subscribed just yet, what you waiting for, my friend? Please hit that subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you appreciate this update, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. It does help a bit with the YouTube algorithm, and I do appreciate you guys supporting the channel. All right, we're going to first go ahead and take a look at the latest tornado count here as we're looking at so far here for 2025. We've had 751 tornadoes for the year. Kind of looking at, we're about on par where we were last year, so very close to that. And I do expect we're going to see an uptick in activity here over the next week as we have several days of potential severe weather and thus the risk for tornadoes in the cards as we look ahead. Now, as we look at our satellite imagery here, we got a couple systems we're watching. We got this meandering one that's been across the southeast and kind of moving into the mid-Atlantic region. We'll watch that here for today. And, of course, we're watching the high plains area. This will be our initial round for severe weather coming in, eventually kind of moving into the areas of the Great Lakes where we do have an enhanced risk for tomorrow. And I'll break that down for you here in just a second. Current watches and warnings, nothing to worry out there too big, but we are watching the heat build here across Texas. We have heat advisories up. In fact, you folks in Texas are going to probably have the heat sticking around probably for the next 7 to 10 days. There is a little bit of reprieve coming toward the long range. I'm going to teach you that. I kind of showed you that thumbnail that was showing you, holy cow. Boy, a big pattern change potential here toward the end of the month, and we're going to show you that in this update here in just a second. Let's go look at our surface map here for this morning as, again, we're kind of tracking those two systems here for today. Most of the activity here is going to be across the high plains up here into the Dakotas as they're getting some pretty decent heavy rains in that area. In fact, they're going to see some pretty good heavy flooding rains, I think, potentially here over the days ahead as we go ahead into tomorrow. All right, let's go and look at your radar up that way as we're looking at the rains up there into the Minot area and Minot, North Dakota, and getting just to the west of the Bismarck area there. So the rain's just kind of moving in here from north to south. But eventually this will start to push off toward the east here as that low pressure starts getting cranking, and we're going to see things begin to deteriorate, especially as we head toward the evening hours. We're going to look at the latest high resolution model data on that here in just a moment. All right, so let's go ahead and break down the severe weather potential here for today. It's going to be active across the high plains. That is our target zone. That's where that slight risk is, running the highest here. Again, running up to the Dakotas, back to Nebraska, Iowa, and parts of Minnesota. We also have the marginal risk here for some of the air mass thunderstorms here across portions of the west, the east as well, here across the areas of mid-Atlantic, back toward Georgia, and also into the Carolinas. So that area could see an isolated severe thunderstorm or two today as well. Let's go ahead and break down the categories. We'll first take a look at the tornado risk. Not running too high, but generally here across the Dakotas and through Nebraska, and the portions of Minnesota and Iowa. So we're talking about cities in there, basically like Sioux City, heading back down toward Omaha, near the Omaha area. Those are your two biggest cities in here. North Platte getting into the action here. So this zone will be where the tornado risk will be running the highest here for today. What about the wind threat? Let's take a look at that. Obviously, we've got the two zones we're kind of watching here. They're across the areas of the mid-Atlantic and into the southeast, that zone there. And obviously the bullseye there in the yellow where that slight risk was, running through the Dakotas back towards Sioux Falls and Sioux City here for today, heading into tonight. Mostly into the evening hours and tonight, I believe, on the latest model data. Hail threat obviously will be the highest up there as well through Nebraska. You see that shaded area in there. That's where the Storm Prediction Center believes the highest hail threat will be falling into that zone. But you still could see some hail here across the southeast and into areas of the mid-Atlantic, thanks to a few individual thunderstorms that may pop here during the late afternoon hours. Now let's go ahead and talk about for tomorrow. Tomorrow the risk goes up, and we're going to be talking about the areas there into Wisconsin, back into Michigan and northern Indiana. Those are our zones. That's in the enhanced zone. So Eau Claire, down towards South Bend, Muskegon, Madison, getting into Chicago. These areas will be under the gun for the highest risk for severe weather as that low begins to pull on out. All right, now let's go ahead and break down the categories here as well for day two. Obviously, we've got a larger area here showing a 5% risk for tornadoes, running a pretty good area here. Not a big super outbreak, but we could see a few isolated tornadoes here, especially across Wisconsin and maybe into Indiana. I think the atmosphere is going to be a little bit capped down toward the southern part of this. So what I'm thinking is some of the activity down here will be a little more sporadic, and it'll be a little more intense up this way as we'll have a squall line going through the northern portion of this, and then we'll look for supercell storms on the southern end of this. All right, let's go look at the wind action here. We'll break that down. That's very high. Obviously, that red area there running into a 30% risk in that enhanced zone. Again, South Bend, Muskegon, back over to Eau Claire. That includes Madison, Green Bay's into this as well. And then you got the 15% going down toward Cape Girardeau, Evansville, Lexington, Kentucky, getting pretty close to that, and obviously into Indianapolis. So that zone in there going into that 15% realm. And the hail threat obviously will be highest right in that same zone, that area there shaded. That's where the highest hail threat will be. Possibility of seeing large hail up to 2 inches in those zones as well. All right, finally looking at your day 3 outlook here. Let's go check out your day 3. This will shift a little bit further to the south. We got that bullseye here from Louisville back to Jonesboro, Pine Bluff, Memphis, and Nashville, all into the zone here. You see the marginal risk there in the green stretching back down toward Dallas, Huntsville, Parkersburg. Ohio is into this, so this is our risk for tomorrow, and we'll have the categorical breakdowns for that for tomorrow for this zone. And then beyond that, going into the day 4, we're still kind of looking at a couple of zones there we got to watch here beyond that going into the days ahead, as we got a few more days to watch severe weather, not only there, but that's going to kind of move back out into the plains once that next system comes out going into day 5. And then day 6 as well. So we've got some active weather here for the next 6 days to kind of watch with this severe weather threat coming your way. So each day we have to watch, obviously, because they'll be changed and they'll adjust day to day depending on the latest forecast trends. Now, along with these storms, we got to watch about the excess of rain and flooding. That's going to be around as well, folks. Here's your pockets for today. We're going to break this down for the next 5 days. This is for, obviously, your Wednesday. We got 2 pockets there across the Mid-Atlantic and, of course, up there into areas of the Dakotas where the heavy rain, I think your heavy rain up here is really going to be high. I'm going to show you those rainfall totals here in a second. And the Mid-Atlantic might see some localized pockets there as well. So let's go check out the next 5 days here. Here's your day 2. Stays confined to the high plains there. Day 3, going toward this upcoming weekend, going in toward Friday, kind of shifts down toward the south to the Ohio River Valley and heading in toward areas of Arkansas. Day 4 kind of shifts there to the northeast. So we got a couple pockets there across Maine and into New York. And then, of course, down here across Texas, back over toward Mississippi and Tennessee, going into your day 4. And then day 5 going into this weekend, we just got some pockets all over the place. This goes into Sunday and Monday. We got 4 different pockets to kind of watch there across the western zones. We've got there across the high plains, here across the middle of the country, and across Maine. So we got multiple areas there where some heavy rains are possible as we go into this upcoming weekend. Now, boy, do we have a lot to talk about looking at the latest model data. We're going to first take a look at the European model. I'm going to show you exactly what's going to be driving the severe weather risk, not only for this week, but also going into next week as well, as we're watching 2 disturbances kind of rolling out of the west. So this first one is coming out of the Rockies. You see it there here in the blue, as this thing's going to eject on out and kind of highlight that severe weather risk here going in toward this upcoming Thursday and Friday. So you see it kind of coming on out. That's what's going to be responsible for firing up the severe weather across the high plains for late today. And this will go up into the Great Lakes going into late in the day on Thursday. So you see this kind of configuration, a little bit of a bend back in here as well. So there'll probably be some sort of squall line that's going to be coming through portions of Wisconsin. The question marks will be down here to the south, whether the atmosphere will be capped enough to kind of keep the storms at bay down toward the south. But that's our first round going into Wednesday, Thursday. It swings on up to the north, and then we'll watch and see what happens beyond this. We got another piece of energy. Here's the next one. Dives in right behind this other one, so we get this other one down here across the southwest. It's also going to eject on out, but this one looks like it's going to weaken a bit as it ejects. So this one may not be quite as robust as the current one, but it does pull out in the plains. It does show that going in toward the 20th. So we're going to have to watch Tuesday of next week for severe weather. Again, you see kind of a little bit of a tilt in here as well. That kind of adds to the instability, the spin of the atmosphere. So there could be some potential tornadoes with that one as well going in toward Tuesday. Then it begins to weaken on out. Then as we look at the long range, and this was kind of my teaser thumbnail here, here's something you do not see very often, especially heading toward the end of May. If you're kind of looking ahead toward Memorial Day weekend, want to know what's going to be in store, a very unusual weather pattern looks like it's trying to establish itself here. We get a huge trough here in the east. I mean, look at this. We got a big ridge here in the west and a big trough here in the east. So what that's going to mean is going to be a big part of the country here, the Northeast, Great Lakes, and the middle of the country here, going to see below normal temperatures here. And we'll even beat back some of that heat in Texas as well. But this is very unusual to see that. And when I show you the temperature profile snapshot potential looking at Memorial Day weekend, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the high resolution model data here. as we're talking about the severe weather. So this is a snapshot for later this afternoon. This is instability. This is CAPE. This is fuel for the thunderstorms. And we're getting a little bit. It's not too terribly bad up here across areas of the Dakotas, but it's this area in here that'll be firing up those thunderstorms here, at least initially, as we go in toward this evening. So this will be moving off. And then this same instability will be kind of feeding up into areas of Wisconsin going into late tomorrow. So by the time we get into tomorrow evening, boy, we got some very high instability here across portions of Minnesota, stretching back in toward Illinois and into Indiana. So it's this zone that's going to see that highest risk for severe weather, as we outlined you there from the Storm Prediction Center. The question is going to be down toward Indiana, areas down here toward the south, whether there's a bit of a cap that's going to be in place there. A squall line will be coming through Wisconsin, and there could be some individual supercells across Indiana. We'll have to watch if it's able to bust the cap later in the day, or once the atmosphere starts to cool off heading into the evening hours. So let's look at the high resolution model data here. We're going to focus here first on this area up here. Now, we do have some storms here in the east. We got this low pressure, what's left of it, kind of moving on, meandering on off. But we're kind of watching what's going on up there in the high plains here as we head toward the late afternoon hours. So by 6 o'clock, you got some scattered storms here across the south. Again, maybe an isolated severe thunderstorm or two down here. But it's this area up here toward the north that's going to be really kind of where things are really going to start hopping. So let me zoom in a little bit closer. And you can kind of see this as by 8 o'clock, you got a pretty good line of thunderstorms there stretching from my note coming down into northern Nebraska. So again, potential severe weather with this, and some very, very heavy rains as well going into Wednesday night. This is 11 o'clock Wednesday night, and this kind of moves off very slowly with that 987 low pressure system. Not bad for this time of year coming through Nebraska. Then as we go in toward tomorrow, this begins to shift off toward the east, and then we're going to watch what happens here going into tomorrow with the daytime heating. So we'll see that kind of fire off some more thunderstorms. You see it there across Minnesota at the 10 o'clock hour. And then you see some really big thunderstorms there. They start to pop right around 5, 6 o'clock. So here's where that severe weather is going to be initially. Again, that's in that enhanced zone going in towards 6 o'clock. Notice that areas down here toward the south, not seeing anything just yet, but watch as they go forward here. As we go in toward 9 o'clock, boom, we start firing some storms here across Illinois and Indiana. These could be supercells down here. We got a squall line up here. So we're dealing with two different types of storm systems here. As far as different severe weather storms. We got a squall line that's going to sweep through Wisconsin and through Michigan, and then you got individual supercells down there with that really juicy, moist areas down across Illinois and Indiana, and that pushes off toward the east with that squall line kind of shifting on around there. Look at that big low there, 979 millibars. You do not see a 979 millibar low that often going in toward the middle portion of May. Very unusual to see a low pressure system that strong. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the rainfall amounts. Again, the rainfall is going to be the highest up here across the high plains. You see some sporadic 1 to 2 inch totals here across the mid-Atlantic into the northeast, but it's going to be this area into the high plains here that's going to be the highest. You see a lot of purple in here. You're talking 3 inches plus, 4 inches of rain, 4 inches of rain, a couple of 2 inch rain pockets, but very heavy rain here across the Dakotas and into northern Nebraska. And it tapers off a bit as it goes into areas of Wisconsin and into the Great Lakes, and partly because it's going to be moving. This is going to be kind of sitting here for a long period of time, a little longer period of time for the heavier rains, and this area here we'll see a little bit less. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the European models. We're looking at, again, at the big picture as that big low begins to push on off. We're going to take you through the weekend here, and we'll see a few more thunderstorms down here in the south. This goes into your early Friday night and Saturday morning. Let's see if any of these potentially could be severe if they track far enough south. Right now, Storm Prediction Center says no, it should weaken, it should stay up toward the north, but something to watch for you folks across the southeast going into Saturday morning. And then we'll see additional storms there flaring up here going in towards Sunday, seeing some storms there in the middle of the country. But we're going to be watching that next storm system coming on out going into Monday. Again, you got those storms coming out, boom, right there, going in toward Monday, going in toward the 19th. So the 19th and 20th, we're going to watch this area in here with that severe weather potential through Kansas, coming back in toward East Texas. Even little snows across portions of Colorado with this low kicking on out. Now, this one will not be as strong as the one we just saw. The other one obviously getting down to 979, but you see the storms trekking out going into Tuesday. This comes out to the 20th, and then we'll see some severe weather kind of tracking here from Illinois back in here toward Texas going into your Tuesday afternoon. So Monday and Tuesday next week, the 19th and 20th, will be severe weather days there. Then once this goes by, we got a little bit of a pattern shift taking place there beyond this. And I'm not seeing any real big organized threats of severe weather beyond that. But with that big pattern change coming on through, Here's where we get toward the end of the model run. We got this low coming on in here. This will be a cold front here with this low pressure system front coming on down. We're going to get a nice little cool shot by late spring standards that'll be coming in here going in toward Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend. Summer's just starting here, folks. As it swings on across the Northeast, very unsettled going into Memorial Day weekend. Wet and rainy across the Northeast. Much cooler temperatures and a bit breezy. Look how packed the isobars in here. It's going to be breezy with these northerly winds kind of kicking on in here. Going in toward Memorial Day weekend, as it's going to be much cooler as that rain moves off toward the east. So again, it's a long range, subject to change, but boy, that is a very pronounced dip in the jet stream. And the Climate Prediction Center is also kind of hinting at that. I'm going to show you that here in just a second. All right, now rainfall totals here, looking over the next week or so. Again, we're looking at pretty much the same totals up here across the high plains. The thunderstorms bringing the rains here across portions of Kansas, Arkansas, and into Tennessee. These are the storms that'll be flaring up toward the end of this week. And then you see the rains across the Northeast. Still dry across the Southwest, California. Florida's looking pretty dry. A lot of the Gulf Coast is looking dry here over the next 10 days. Now, as far as the temperatures, we got to talk about this. Again, you got the cooler weather out here in the west for today. Texas, you're going to stay in the heat. That's not going to go away here for the next week or so. Expect record-breaking high temperatures to continue across Texas and staying hot down there. But if the long-range models are correct, we do see a little bit of a reprieve. So let's go into your Friday afternoon here again. Look at all that purple there. Again, that's 95-degree plus temperatures. Those feel-like temperatures will be running very high once again. Looking very hot going into Saturday, no change there. Sunday, still looking pretty hot across Texas. Things are cooling off here a little bit in the east, that's for sure, going into this upcoming weekend here. But again, look at the heat here. Look at now we're starting to build the heat across areas going into next week across South Georgia into Florida. See a little more 90s back out here, and we're eventually going to watch the heat here across California start to build up here as we go toward the end of the forecast period there. So again, we're going to watch this go on out here. Still looking hot here, going toward the middle of next week on the 21st. Looks like a lot of the heat's going to be confined here across the south. This is where the heat's going to be, but we got these cooler pockets here across the Northeast and across the Great Lakes going toward Wednesday of next week. Now, looking ahead toward Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend. I keep saying that. I don't know what my problem is here. Getting a little too old, I guess. So anyway, looking pretty hot going toward Friday. And boy, look at these temperatures here. Check this out as I take this out toward Memorial Day itself. Look at these 2 o'clock temperatures here. Just unreal. Look at this. 47 degrees, 52 degrees. Here, Kentucky, 64. These are afternoon highs, folks. 64, 68, 74. Even North Georgia, 73 degrees. You get some heat down to south of here. Get some 90s down in Florida. A little bit of heat down here in Texas, but even the Texas heat gets beat down a little bit. But look at all these 60s here across the country. Just a big, large part of it here. Seeing below normal temperatures here going in toward a Memorial Day weekend. Now, we are going to see the heat build out here toward the west. You're seeing the purple out here. Yeah, 101. You know, this is what you typically see, 100 degrees out toward Phoenix. So the heat building out toward the west, but a big part of the country here looking at below normal temperatures. So very, very unusual if that long-range projection holds true. Now, take a look here at the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. Again, this is showing what it's currently looking like, and this looks pretty much right here going out for the next 6 to 10 days where we're going to see, again, below normal temperatures here, the cooler weather across the high plains, staying very warm and hot here across the south with above normal temperatures here. This is going from the 19th to the 23rd. But look what happens as we go through the 8th to the 14th. Boom. We're talking about below normal temperatures getting here in the south. And based off what that European model is showing, yeah, we're going to be bringing in some much cooler temperatures here across the eastern third of the United States. Definitely going to see the heat come out here toward the west, as we just showed you there with the triple digits building there, and still looking at some heat here across Texas, although not quite as bad as what it's currently showing. As far as precipitation is concerned, let's look at the 6 to 10 day here. Again, a big part of the country, they're looking at high precipitation chances, except for the folks out here on the West Coast, getting a chance to dry out here from the 19th through the 23rd. And then as we take this deeper into the month, going out toward basically Memorial Day weekend, still looking at maybe a little bit above normal precipitation here from the northeast, coming down in here toward the South Plains and staying pretty much dry out here on the West Coast, especially with that big ridge forming out there. That's going to make a big change there as things dry out in the west. So a very active period here over the next 7 days. We got several days of severe weather, not only coming in going into our Thursday and into Friday. Pretty good outbreak there. We've got more next week, although that next system behind this one doesn't look quite as bad, but still severe weather going into the 19th and 20th. And then we'll see if that big pattern change takes place and we see that big dump of unusually cool air across the eastern part of the country. I tell you, very unusual. I can't remember the last May that I saw where I saw below normal temperatures going into getting ready almost into summer, and to see that. So I guess a little bit of a welcome sight to see, because when it gets hot, it's going to get hot. It'll be sticking around here for a few months. Anyway, that's y'all's update for now. Again, you appreciate you guys checking out the channel. If you appreciate the support and you'd like to become a subscriber, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on the future updates. And if you got any weather-related questions, as always, please post them down below. I'm more than happy to answer y'all's questions. All right, that's y'all's update for today. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. You guys have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.